Happy Easter once again. I would like to read something to you. The other part of when Mary comes to the tomb. Mary Magdalene was outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she looked inside. She saw two angels dressed in white, seated there where the body of Christ had been. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said, "They took away the body of my Lord, and I don't know where they took it." As she wept, well, as she said this, she saw Jesus there, standing in front of her without speaking. And then Jesus said, "Woman, why are you weeping? What are you searching?" And she thought that it was the gardener. She said, "If you have taken the Lord away, tell me where you put him, and I will go and find him." And Jesus then said, "Mary." And she understood. She said, "Master." So beautiful, this encounter between the disciple and the Guru, the Master. It's a very special moment. I would like to tell you, when Jesus came into my life, I was 10 years old, and I was attending a huge college. It was more like a monastery. We'd sleep there, prayed together, went to school, studied together. And at that time, I didn't know how to pray. I didn't even know what Mass was, Holy Mass was. But then, morning and evening, we did go to Holy Mass. And I must say that at the beginning, I went to Mass because the teachers were there and I wanted to have their approval, because my studies were not going all that well. Anyway, I went, and then I did appreciate it. It started at 6:30, so I was a bit sleepy. But then later on, there was the evening Mass, and I didn't understand very much what they were saying. But when I got out of the Mass, there was something that had changed within me. Maybe the reading, maybe the sermon, maybe the Holy Communion. I don't know what it was, but I did feel better. And so, in that period, I went no longer just to get the approval of my teachers, but because things after Mass just became lighter, easier, better, and I started wondering. And one question that came to me was, why all these wars? Why all these endless trouble? Why do people suffer, become sick, die? And because at that period, the war in Vietnam was going on, and I could feel that there was something that I couldn't sense. I said, why have we been put onto this planet where there are more trouble than good things? Or maybe people were not talking about good things, they were only talking about the trouble. I had troubles myself. It wasn't easy to be away from my parents, away from my house for a long period, such a long period, because I did go home maybe twice a month or something. But I still asked myself this question, and I spoke about it with various priests, and none of them gave me an answer that I was able to make mine. I had to wait for 20 years to receive that answer. And it was given to me by Yogananda. When I read the autobiography of a yogi that had been given to me by God, I understood that there was the answer that I was looking for. It didn't come right away to me, that answer. I still had to do some research. I had to meet people that were following that. Friends, dear friends, amongst whom Swami Kriyananda, who could help me to understand that all what we see is just a delusion, that this world is just, that does involve us, that does take us, that draws us in, but then in the end, just a dream. Within me, this had stayed another question had lingered for a long time. Why, Lord, did you send your Son on earth, and then he was treated so terribly? In order to get that answer, because I wanted to feel it in my heart, within, I had to wait another 20 years, maybe 25 years. When I went to the Holy Land for the first time, I so much enjoyed Galilee, where he started his mission, because he did come with a very special mission, a mission to help people, to help humanity understand that we do not belong to this world. We live in a different world. We live here, but we belong to a different world. Those were beautiful places where he would be with his disciples, where this battle was going on between Maya and him, Satan and him, where the baptism happened, where he met John the Baptist, where the transfiguration occurred. But then eventually I came to Jerusalem, which I wanted to see most of all. And I remember that one evening, it was before 7 o'clock, the saints, the Holy Sepulchre closes at 7, but I was sitting near where the cross had been. To perceive, I started to make myself receptive. I started to meditate. I wanted to attune myself with that experience. I didn't feel any suffering. I felt a great grace happening, a strength, a power that uplifted me. My energy went up and up and up. And I was there, and I went through his station of the cross, and at a certain point, during that station of the cross, I saw really who he was as he was walking. He was not carrying his cross. Maybe someone else, Simon, was carrying. He was not carrying. He was walking. He was walking towards the place where he would have been, where he was going to be crucified. And then at a certain point, there was a person who was walking with him, and that person stops. He turns towards Christ, who was walking there. Jesus too stops, looks at this person, turns to this person, and it was Mary. They didn't exchange one word. They only looked at each other, looked each other into the eyes. Mary started weeping. Divine tears of love. And Jesus looked at her with such compassion that I cannot describe with words. To share that moment with you. But he then turned around and continued. He had to go. He had to fulfill his mission. This is how it went. And at that moment I could feel a grace, a very strong grace, a glory in the resurrection of that saintly man, that man who won the battle of life and who came to give us that message. You are angels, you are part of God. His power is your power. He brought that power through the example of his life. There's another beautiful story that I would like to share with you. When I think of that story, it becomes hard for me to speak. It is the story about Jesus' brother. His name was Jacob. Jacob was a very loyal person. He was loyal to the law. And he did not appreciate Jesus, his brother Jesus' revolutionary ways. So one day he went home, and a friend of Jesus, a little boy, was looking for Jesus, and he found Jesus' brother Jacob, and he said, I want to talk with Jesus because my father is dying, and he wants Jesus' blessings. And Jacob said, I'm sorry. They crucified him yesterday, and he's dead, and he's now in the Holy Sepulchre. And then the little boy says to Jacob, but if Jesus is not there, could you come with me and bless my father? And Jacob in the beginning says, no, I can't do it. Today is Sabbath. I can't do it. I have to stay here. I have to stay home. It's a day of withdrawal, Sabbath. I can't do this on the Sabbath. But then he says, okay, but Jesus would have come. And then that moment within Jacob's heart, a sound, a voice sound says, and then he says, okay, I will come with you. And as he goes with the boy, he finds a slave that had lost the weight, the burden that he was carrying on his shoulder, and he helped the slave. And then he met a limping woman who could hardly walk, and he took her by the hand. And then he came to the house of the father. He blessed the father. He gave the forgiveness that Jesus would have given if he were still there. And then he went back home. When he went back home, there was a big party going on. And he said, didn't you hear? Haven't you heard that Jesus has resurrected? And he said to them, I know he has resurrected. He has risen. I know he has risen. How do you know? Did you see Mary Magdalene? They said. He said, no, I didn't see Mary Magdalene. I saw the face of the person that I blessed, Jacob's father. I saw when I was carrying the burden of the slave, and that slave thanked me. The voice was Jesus' voice. And when I helped that limping woman who could barely walk, I didn't hold her hand. I was holding my brother's hand. I was holding Jesus' hands. That's why I know he has risen. Each one of us, when he helps or serves God through other people, everything testifies then of Jesus' presence and living presence in our lives. We need to remember that always. On a train, once there was a priest who was reading his gospel, and opposite him there was a mother and a child, and as every child does, watching this this priest dressed in black, and he was fixing his gaze on the priest, and sometimes the priest would look at the child and smile and then continue to walk. And as he turned the page, this priest lost the picture, and the child immediately took the picture, looked at it, and it was a picture of the Madonna. And looking at the picture of the Madonna, he said, "But who is this lady?" The priest didn't know how to answer. He found it difficult to answer. So he had some problem. He said, "It's my mom." The child looks at the picture, looks at the priest again. The pictures, but you don't look at her at all. The priest then says, "Believe me, I've tried to be like that person for all my life. It's not enough to just look like someone." Even Swami at Grihanada had a similar experience. While he was doing something for Christmas, I think it was something like a performance. He was then very young and he had a beard, and he was doing the part of Jesus, and everybody paid him compliments for the way in which he had played his role of Jesus. He met the master after that, and the master said to him, "Yeah, you were really good at doing that role of Jesus." And then Swami answered, "Rather than playing his part, I would like to be like Jesus." And Yogananda gave the most beautiful answer he could have given. He said, "That will come." And so, for each one of us, that will come. We will be like Jesus. The faith that Jesus gave us, believing in the Lord, is very important. When he gave the only prayer that he gave, that millions of people repeat every day, it's the Lord's Prayer. Father, our Father who art in heaven, thy name be hallowed. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. That is an act of faith. If we can imagine our world when each one of us will do the will of the Father, because there's nothing that happens that the Father doesn't want to happen. Sometimes it may be difficult. Right now there's some trouble going in the world. There are people who die, who suffer, people who are afraid. Even that has a meaning. Certainly our lives will change. But I believe that underneath we need to hold on to the only security we have, which is our faith, the anchor of our lives. All other things will pass, must pass. The only thing that will never pass will be our faith. And that presence that is with us in every moment, in every difficulty, in every joy. To finish, I would like to read something that I found that was really beautiful. By a saint. Her name was Maria Baltorta. She stayed. Baltorta. She's from this century. She was paralyzed after an accident, had to stay in bed for the rest of her life. And during that life, she was observing. She was a spectator of what happened during Jesus' life. And she had notebooks that she would write in everything that he gave to her. She was there, and nobody can tell us whether it's true or whether it's for her own fantasy. But yesterday I read the moment of the resurrection. These notebooks have never been changed or edited. As she wrote them, they were published, they were never edited. And it's called The Gospel as it was revealed to me, because she had this revelation. And I read the part that regards Jesus' resurrection when he went to find his mother, Maria, went to visit his mother, Maria. This she wrote on February 21st, 1944. The closed window opens, and with the rays of the first sun, Jesus enters. Maria looks up. She was the wind, and she sees her son, radiant, beautiful, infinitely more beautifully than when he was. Than before he had never had suffered. He was smiling, he was alive, he was luminous, more than the sun. His white dress seemed pure, made of light, and it stretches out to her. She sits on her knees and bringing her hands on her heart as a cross, she says with sobbing, she says, "My Lord, my God." And that's how she stays in ecstasy, contemplating him. Her face, with tears on her face, but serene, peaceful by his smile, by his ecstasy. But he doesn't want to see, Jesus doesn't want to see his mother kneeling. He calls her, he keeps her in his hands. He takes her hands, and out of his wounds, light comes that makes his flesh even more luminous, and he says, "Mother," but it's not the sad word that he says during the Passion, nor is it that lamentation that happens on Calvary of agony. It is a cry of triumph, joy, freedom, feast, love, and gratitude. He bows over to his mother, who doesn't want to touch him, and he puts his hand on her bent elbows and makes her stand up, and he embraces her and kisses her, and then Maria understands that this is not a vision, that it is the Son who has really resurrected, that it is her Jesus. The Son that she still loves as Son, and she too embraces him and kisses him and laughs as she cries. She kisses on his forehead, where no wounds there are anymore, on his head where there's no blood anymore, on his eyes, on his cheeks, on his mouth. And then she takes his hands, and she kisses his hands, the palms, on the wounds that are now filled with light. And then she bows down and again kisses them. And then she stands up. She looks at him, and she dares no longer, but he smiles. But he smiles and understands. He opens his heart to her, his chest, and says, "Kiss me on the heart, Mother. It will take away the last memory of pain, and it will give me again the joy that then was not there, the joy of my resurrection." And then she takes the hands of his mother and her face, and puts her lips on his, and her lips on the wound in his side, where light comes out. And her face then is surrounded by her light. And then Jesus speaks. He says, "It's all ended. You don't need to cry for your son anymore. The test is over, and the redemption has happened. Mama, thank you for having conceived me, grown me, and helped me in life and death. I could feel your prayers coming to me. They were my strength in pain, my companionship during my journey on the earth and beyond. They came to me on the cross and also in the limbo. They came to me in paradise, coming like an angelic voice, because the angels could be ready to salute their Savior coming back into His kingdom. Those prayers were heard and seen by the Father and by the Spirit, and they smiled more beautifully than a flower. The whole sky, the whole heaven sings Hosanna to you, my mother, my saintly mother. Now I go back to my Father with my human body. The paradise must see me victory in His dressed as woman, as a man, the human who has overcome sin. But then I will come back. I need to give faith again to those who don't believe and help them to believe. I must give more strength to my disciples who need strength to be able to resist in the world. And then I will go up to heaven. But I won't leave you alone, Mother. For you, I will do another miracle. You will have me in the sacrament, in the real sacrament, as real as as you were having me in your womb. Now I'm no longer separated from the Father. You will no longer be separated from the Son, and you will have the Son. You will have the Trinity. Living heaven, you will bring the Trinity on earth among people, and you will make the Church holy, you King of all priests and Mother of all Christians. And then I will come, and you will be in me. You are in me, in my kingdom, and you will make paradise even more beautiful. It's such a joy to be able to be here with all of you and celebrate this moment of Easter. Easter is a passage that helps us to transform our lives. When we will have transformed it, we will resurrect. No more death, darkness, fear, only light and joy. That comes from all our masters, from all the masters, even the masters that we don't know, that have been messengers of God, that came on earth to help us resurrect, to help us rise. We must have faith, because this will happen. And we don't want to lose ourselves in the sea, merciless sea of this planet, because for everything there's one solution, God. Happy Easter, and may it be a Easter of resurrection for each one of you.